you can use that to promote your business anywhere you want to, because we really believe that supporting one another is what is going to help our businesses grow. So we are here for you and your business also.
Absolutely. That's our gift, a little gift from us. Judy and I love. By the way, this community, we've been doing it for almost 2 years. If you have not joined our business page, please join us there. It's growing organically so much that it's beyond our imagination. How this free-spirited people, like-minded people.
Right, and that is in LinkedIn under Unleash Your Free Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So
we are all coming together. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we want to welcome our speaker today. And Guinea, if you could do the honors of introducing Chad Lefevre and just telling everyone just a little about some of this amazing man.
Oh my goodness, Chad. You know what, my friends, you are in for a treat of your life. He is a senior partner at Neurobe Inc. He is a transformation and leadership development expert. His expertise are in neuroscience, complexity theory, game theory, behavioral psychology, and spirituality. He is a sought-after speaker around the world, and he speaks about the power and need to master our own minds, because that can have an impact, a huge impact on your business and the world. I consider Chad as an authority about business of being. That's the most important conversations we can have. And by the way, that's his website too, themostimportantconversations.com. Chad really grounds you. He transforms you, and may you all experience what is this to be in your business of being yourself. So without further ado, may we request Chad to share with our community his wisdom.
Thanks so much, Jenny, and welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me today. I noticed, in the preparation for this talk today, that there were a couple things that Jenny, that you and Judy had proposed that I touch on, which I will intermittently as we go through this. But I wanted to actually speak about sort of a broader concept as well, which is even taking the name of this group and, unleashing your free spirit and what this is all about, and really pause. And, we can get stuck, human beings can get stuck in these sort of tropes, these words, these phrases that we think, oh, it means this or it means that, but often we don't really know how things actually relate to us, because what we found in about 20 years of working with Fortune 100 companies, small businesses, et cetera, is that most human beings actually don't really know what they want and struggle. And so as a business owner, when you come from a place of not knowing who you are, or what you want, whatever gets created from that lack of clarity is going to be the thing that you are managing in your life, the thing that you are having to tolerate in your life, the thing that you are having to put all kinds of energy in, and it may not even be aligned with you. So at a very high level, I wanted to just talk about what does it mean to, what does freedom mean? What does it mean to have a free spirit? What is a spirit? How does this relate to business? I mean, this is sort of an antithetical conversation in the traditional business world. Most business conversations are all about sales, marketing, operations. How do we get more customers? How do we raise more capital? It's all outward focused, or as we teach in the most important conversations, it's all about rearranging the furniture of our lives or trying to control the weather of our life. And that is not really where people should be spending their time as business owners. What we have found is that when business owners, whether they're corporate executives and they're in charge of managing a large, multinational global corporation, or it's individuals managing their own small business, or you have a medium-sized business, it's all the same, because there's one constant in all businesses: human beings. That is the one constant. And wherever you go in the world, whatever business you're dealing with, there are some reliable things that are consistent when it pertains to human beings. We tend to focus mostly on how brains work and how the human brain actually becomes a self-sabotaging organ that gets in the way of the success of your business and your life, but you don't even realize it. We make the very bold claim in our workshops that you are addicted to failure and you don't even know it. And it's not your fault. It's your brain that actually doesn't want you to take new risks. It's your brain that doesn't want you to unleash your free spirit, to actually experience that freedom. Because believe it or not, what neuroscience and behavioral psychology tells us that our brains actually don't want to be free. They want to know, they want to predict, they want to confine, they want to habituate, they want everything to be habit. And then our brain reinforces us through neurochemicals to get stuck in habit. There was a study that was done in 2005 on heart attack patients. And in this study, they found that the patients who had a heart attack were told by their doctor that if you do not make substantive lifestyle change, diet, sleep, exercise, all the things we know, that within 5 years, statistically, they will either have a relapse of a heart attack or they will be dead, one of the two. And in that study, what they found is less than 10% of heart attack patients made any change around their lifestyle to save their life. Less than 10%. This was a 2005 study. When I read that, and I was very involved in the early days of the personal growth and self-help world that was coming out of the 1990s into the 2000s. And when I read that, I kind of threw my hands up in the air and I said, well, then this whole industry is a waste of time. Because if you're not going to be able to make changes to save your life, you're not going to make the changes to save your business. You're not going to make the changes to save your relationships. You're not going to make the changes to save your health, you lose weight. I mean, any of the things you go into a Barnes and Noble bookstore or go on Amazon and you buy a self-help book, any of the things that drive you to want to do that, your brain is sabotaging you from being able to do any of it. Because what this study showed is your brain won't even let you change aspects of yourself to save your life. So what do we do about this? This led us, when I say us, I mean myself and Anurag Gupta, both of us who have been in the personal growth, transformation, human potential movement, whatever you want to call it, for him 30 years, me 20 years. And it led us to create this program, which is called The Most Important Conversations. And in that program, our commitment and what we've been working on now diligently with people from all over the world for the last 4 years is how to transform your mind so that your business can thrive. We actually have a program that we've just started this year called the Life Regenerative Business Model, which is basically we're working with business owners like you to kind of take a step back, or in some cases, many steps back, to reevaluate. Is your business the vehicle that is delivering your spirit, your calling, your purpose to the world? Or is it just something that you did and now you're managing and now you are attached to and you can't let go of it, or you can't let go of the way that you're doing it, or you can't let go of the stories you have wrapped around it in terms of what's going to happen, how much money you're going to make, how successful you're going to be. Understand that our brain tells us stories. It doesn't give us reality. Okay, there's reality, there's what's happening in the world, there's what's happening to your business, there's what's happening in terms of your business's impact or lack of impact in whatever it is that your business, whatever area your business is in. There's what's happening, and then there's the stories that your brain are telling you about it. And our brain tells us stories because the reality is we don't know if we're going to get hit by a bus or not tomorrow. We actually don't know what tomorrow brings. When I help companies raise money, of which I do consistently, we just raised $10 million for a project just this past year out of Los Angeles. I sit down with investors and they say, tell us, how much money you're going to make in 3 years, right? And I say, oh, you want me to tell you a bedtime story? Because I have no clue. I can tell you what theoretically could happen if all of these things lined up. But I don't control the weather of life. So for me to guarantee anything would just be lying to you. And what I say to them is, if you want to invest in this company, don't put so much attention on the story the bedtime story I tell you about, yeah, we're going to be $1 billion company in 3 years and blah, blah, blah. Don't put any attention into that. Instead, focus on who's the team. Do they have prior success? Are they competent? Can you trust them? What is the area of the business model? Is it in an area that is showing growth in the world? Look at the other factors. Don't take our word for how much money we're going to make, because we don't know. I think we have many examples that have happened over the last 20 years, not to mention the 2007, 2008 economic crash. You think Lehman Brothers predicted they were going to go bankrupt? Not a chance. You think we predicted what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and how this is going to ripple around the world? No way. All of those 3-year forecasts that were made in August of this year about what's happening in the world now, totally meaningless. How many people invested based on a meaningless story? Many, many people, right? So we need to shift the way we think about business and the way we relate to what we can actually count on, and what's just our brain needing to hear a good story to make us feel secure, because that's all that's really happening. That happens with investors, and it happens with you. As a business owner, you sit down and you make plans for the month, for the quarter, for the year. And, you know, we teach in the most important conversations of the life regenerative business model, not to set goals. This is very antithetical. How many of you have ever been part of a goal setting program? I mean, we all have, right? It's important to set goals, set goals. You know what a goal is? An attachment. You've just created an attachment to a fairy tale around which you control almost none of the variables, and you will now bend your integrity and who you are being in the world, and what you originally said your business was committed to, you will bend that in order to hit this fantasy, this goal, which majority of the time we never hit anyway. And if we do, it never happens the way we think it's going to happen, because we don't control the variables. So what we do, and what I want to communicate to everyone this morning from a business perspective, is to stop relating to your business as this thing you do in the world that's out there, and start shifting the locus of the focus to my business is an expression of my calling, my purpose, my intention, who I'm being in the world. And whether it makes $1 billion or $1 million or $100,000, if it's a unique, authentic expression of who I'm being, it won't matter. This means we have to change our definition of success. We have a definition of success that is an out there definition. How many cars, yachts, houses, how much money do I have in the account? How many people think I'm great? You know, am I in the popular club, you know, with all the other important people? You know, success has nothing to do, in terms of our current definition, of who we are, of who our authentic being is, of what brings us joy, of what makes us happy. And I would suggest that if we're not focused on that stuff, we're never free, because we're always doing the dance to satisfy and satiate everyone and everything outside of ourselves. And so what we do is, and the reason we call it the business of being, is a lot of what our focus is on, is because business, we believe, begins with who you are being and nothing else. The problem is most of us don't know who we are. We are a aggregation of shoulds, musts, expectations, norms, cultural traditions, parental expectations of our friends, family, community. You know, by the time, at the moment you're born, you are named. Your parents already have a fantasy about who you're going to be and what you're going to go do in the world. You're already thrust into a culture that has all of these walls and rules and expectations, which is why in Buddhist traditions, they always say this, one of the goals of life is to get present to and aligned with who were you when you were born. Most of us don't know that person. And yet we have evidence, and we teach this in our workshops in the topics around emotional sobriety. We have evidence that our emotions, which are buried in the subconscious of the right brain, are constantly trying to nudge us back home to ourself. That's where we will be authentically free. Right? We feel freest, just think about it for yourself. You probably feel the most free when you feel like you are doing what comes natural to you, what you feel like you are here to do. And when you know that you feel that way, is because you feel content, you feel peaceful, you feel joyful, you feel happy. Our emotions are actually something, they're a data point that helps us understand where we are to navigate the trajectory of our life, or in this case, our business. If you feel stressed, if you feel anxious, if you feel fearful, if you feel upset or scared. This is your higher self saying, whatever you're doing is out of alignment with you. It's not something that you need to react to. It's not something that you need to go and frenetically try to make more money, make more sales. No, that's not. And that's what we mistakenly always do as business owners. We again go out and try and rearrange the furniture of our life to assuage our fear, our anxiety, our stress, all of this stuff. But what we're saying is you've got to unravel 10, 20, 30 years of programming. The operating system in your brain relates to success, relates to who you're supposed to be in the world to get validation, relates to all these things as a point of security. But you know, how secure are you, or how free are you, I should say, if the only thing you're trying to avoid is the discomfort of the world that you perceive is going to, you know, negatively impact you. This is why some of the poorest people can actually be the freest, because at some point they're no longer attached to what they don't have and are not in a constant and perpetual activity of trying to get what they don't have. Instead, they're an authentic expression of who they are, and their business is the vehicle through which they deliver that to the world. And those people are immensely happy and joyful, despite them maybe not being billionaires or millionaires or whatever, because they're not in business just to buy the next biggest TV and the next car. They're in business to be of service to the world through their business from where they're coming from. But it gets very confusing for us in a culture that we live in, where success is defined as what you have, right? Success is defined as the validation you get. And so we are constantly in this rat race of our own construction. If you want to actually truly be free, you have to free yourself from the rat race. And in order to free yourself from the rat race, you have to free your mind from all the attachments, stories, and expectations you have learned over many decades. And that is, you know, the source of the work that we actually do. So I want to pause there for a second. I know I only had about 15 minutes, and I think I'm getting somewhat close, but I want to invite dialogue, conversation. Jenny and Judy, you kind of let me know, you know, how I can make this something that is, you know, richer for people here.
Well, thank you, Chad. Absolutely. And I just love what you said about being in business to be of service. That is so important to both Guinea and I, and so many of the people on this webinar today. Does anybody have any questions for Chad that he could answer while we have him?
You can raise your hand or you can open your mic. It'll be a pleasure to have a dialogue, because really we are a family. And if we cannot nudge each other to totally become free and come out with, you know, with what, and thank you, Chad. Actually, I always get mesmerized when you say something, because reality is, go ahead, Carl. Go ahead.
Thank you, Guinea. And thank you, Chad. Yeah, that's a lot to digest. You really put a lot out there. Let me ask you this. What does a person look like that knows what they want?
Well, knowing it is one thing. Even deeper than that is what a person looks like when they're authentically being an expression of it, right? And what that person looks like is someone who is light, content, peaceful, not striving, sleeps well at night, lives within their means, isn't striving for more. I mean, that's what it looks like. You know, these things we call negative emotions,
right?
Right? There's no such thing as, at least we teach, there's no such thing as positive and negative emotions. There's just emotions. And some of them are uncomfortable for us and others aren't. And we relate to anything that is uncomfortable as negative. One of the things in our workshop that we focused on helping people work through is to alter the way they relate to discomfort. Because if you think about it, in any area of your life where you've experienced an amazing breakthrough, or you felt most alive, it's when you've had to put effort to overcome some level of discomfort. That could be working out at the gym. That could be, you know, working through a crunchy business problem that you get through, right? You have to put the effort into things in life. But effort should not be related to as negative, number one. And the emotions that we feel when we're out of alignment, which is what we talk about, which is what's going to your question, when you say, what does someone look like when they're, what I would say living an aligned life is, they look like someone who is totally at peace with where they are. They may experience these things we call negative emotions, but they use it as data points to navigate the trajectory of what they do next versus reacting to it and trying to just bury it and not have to feel it. I'm a big believer, and I've said to our group in the most important conversations, that emotional intelligence is the superpower of the next 100 years. We need to get the planet to start to realize, I mean, what you're seeing in Russia and Ukraine right now is we can chalk it up to all these terms like dictator and all this stuff, but what Vladimir Putin fundamentally is a man who has no emotional sobriety. He's basically a 6-year-old having a temper tantrum in a sandbox. It's no different. Unfortunately, it has massively tragic outcomes, but from where he's coming from, it's the 6-year-old in the sandbox that's mad that they're not letting him build the castle he wants to build. And so he's going around the sandbox and stomping on everyone else's creation. That's all that this is. And it's a lack of emotional sobriety. As business leaders, we need to tap into our emotions, learn the difference between what our emotions feel like when we feel aligned, and know what our emotions feel like when we're not aligned. And those are usually related to as negative, but we don't need to react to them. We need to feel them, observe them, look at them, and say, okay, in this moment, what I'm currently doing, what's currently going on is out of alignment. That's what my higher self is telling me. This negative emotion says I am out of alignment. So how do I bring myself back to alignment? Problem is, most people don't know what alignment feels like for them. Because going back to the Buddhist conversation, alignment is tapping into your authentic self, who you are being. Most people don't know who they are. They are a series of constructs. All of us are. And so the work we do with people, with business owners, is we deconstruct everything they think that they are. We create what's a tabula rasa, a blank slate for people to then redesign who they want to be in the world. And then their business becomes an expression of who they're being. We've had people quit their marriages, quit their jobs, change cities. We haven't told them to do any of these things. But when they get into the work with us, they realize, oh my God, this relationship, I didn't even want this relationship. My business, I hate it. I've been triaging it for 10, 15 years. I hate it. They quit the business. They shut it down. I mean, this is, you want to talk about unleashing your free spirit? I cannot think of another more powerful way to unleash your free spirit than to get to the source of who you really are and reconstitute your life so that it aligns with that.
You see,
that's kind of a long-winded answer.
That's excellent. Can I make one follow-up, Judy?
Sure.
Real quick, because we are running out of time.
All right, I'll just move on. Thank you very much, Chad.
Thank you. And we have time for only one more question. And if what we can do is you can put your questions in the chat, and we can have we can talk to Chad about connecting with you guys later. Woody, one more question. You were the first to raise your hand.
If I just ask it really quickly, this is really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this, because some of the things that you said are things that I believe myself when I talk about thinking about how to define success. That's, I think, one of the biggest challenges as most people have. So the question is, though, how and where do we begin to impart this to people, to other people? And I think starting as early as you possibly can. Is that where's the begin stage? Because I think, as you said, over years, certain things get kind of indoctrinated into your head and you get into that space. But if you can start with a child earlier on, what does success look like, or what do you think it's going to be? That might be a place. So if you can address that.
Oh, you're 100% correct. I couldn't agree more with you that the sooner we can work with human beings on this type of work, the better off they'll be with adults. I mean, right now in our workshop, we've got engineering companies, we have executives from Coca-Cola, we've got scientists, and they're all in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or older, right? And so we have way more work to do now because we have to unwind that many more years of programming. It's not an accident that cybernetics, which was the sort of initial body of science that contributed to the development of the computer, modeled the building of computers around brains. It's not an accident. You know, a computer has an operating system, and so do we. And that operating system becomes more and more encoded and entrenched as the years go on. So if we can actually interrupt the programming so that the individual can be at the source of their programming as opposed to someone or something else, if we can do that early enough, then you're going to have humanity just thrive much faster. I mean, the reason history repeats itself, there's no such thing as history out there. There's not this thing that repeats itself. History repeats itself because human brains aren't changing fast enough. So we keep making the same mistakes.
Yes.
This is the bottom line.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
so,
You know,
yes,
we have
you're
so many
100%
wonderful,
correct.
Chad, you have really, I think, triggered all of us to think differently about us as human beings, us as setting up goals. So we are really getting lot of information. What I will suggest, please connect with Chad. You know, we would love, you know, that's the way our community grows. That's the way we all grow. Yes, Mark, we have issues about setting goals. And yes, because we have been trained so much about these things. So please, that's our goal. And we request you to connect with each other, talk to Chad. You know, he's wonderful, you know, very busy guy, but his email is there. He's on LinkedIn. Reach out to him and learn and have the dialogue about the questions which you have, because what questions you have raised, it will take several hours. Chad, they do it in a year, 1 year of programming
1 year,
about
yeah.
the most important conversations.com. I think, Judy, with that,
Yes, absolutely. And Chad, if you don't mind putting in the way you want to be contacted in the chat, that would be absolutely awesome. We appreciate so much the time that you have spent. We realize that you are an extremely busy person and we value you and your time.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm typing it in right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chad, for really showing,
Thanks so much.
being with